Yet how far is his powerful description a fair account of the historical Battle of Bosworth? Shakespeare was a dramatist, and his scenes of fighting were designed for maximum dramatic effect. His plays drew on a solid tradition, the favoured version of the reigning Tudor dynasty. Elements of his account can be found in their earliest recreations of the battle. These also told of Richard's troubled sleep, assailed by dreadful visions and surrounded by a multitude of demons, seen as a product of the king's guilt for dreadful crimes committed in attaining the throne. The theme continued. On awakening, Richard found his camp in disorder. No breakfast had been prepared for him, and no chaplain was there to celebrate Mass. The sense of ill omen was carried through to the battle, with the story again foretelling the Shakespearean picture. Part of Richard's forces did not engage, but remained stationary in forbidding silence, with no blows given or received. His vanguard suddenly lost heart and pulled back from combat. Betrayal was everywhere. Uncommitted soldiers watched from the flanks like carrion crows, prompting Richard's desperate cavalry charge with a small body of supporters. His all-or-nothing attempt to kill his opponent failed, and the king was cut down, cursing the treachery of others. Inevitably, Shakespeare put forward an account of Bosworth that would find favour with the powers that be, the Tudor dynasty and its aristocratic supporters. The chief ingredients of this rendition developed an almost totemic significance. It is fair to say that in this telling, Richard's battle evolved into a living nightmare, in which men did not hear his commands, or chose not to respond to them. There was a terrible inevitability to his betrayal, just as he had betrayed others. The chaos of the battle was thus a judgment on the king, divine punishment for his crimes. It is a highly persuasive view that permeates in obvious or subtle fashion nearly all the accounts that follow it. Yet many of its key features fashion a literary effect rather than search for historical truth. It is a tale well told, but if we take the action out of a moral context, an act that is surprisingly hard to do, and place it against a backdrop of medieval battle history, many of these elements become problematic, making less and less sense. It is fascinating but also unsettling to examine the apparent certainties of our battle tradition in this way. As we remove or re-examine our assumptions, the possibility of a new and very different understanding of Bosworth emerges. We can begin by looking at the failure to engage. Near contemporary reports simply stated that a section of Richard's army remained uninvolved in the fighting. Such a possibility is brought out in Comines' experiences at Montlhéry. Comines told how a substantial number of men in both armies did not join in combat. He provided two explanations. Firstly, fear. Many men were simply too terrified to fight, and some ran away. This is reported as a fact of battle, not a moral judgment on the leadership of either side. Secondly, the engagement developed a momentum of its own. Events moved quickly, and it was impossible to carry fresh orders to all parts of the army. Entire companies of men were left unsure what to do, indeed, unable to see clearly what was happening or where to go. Either explanation could be applied to Bosworth. Yet the preference is to interpret failure to fight in a very different fashion, as a judgment on Richard's character and political career. This might be true, but equally it might not. Let us develop the point further. At Bosworth, we know that the two vanguards did engage. What followed was initially fierce hand-to-hand fighting. Then both sides drew back and there was a pause. On Tudor's side, the action is seen positively, as a regrouping of his forces. On Richard's, negatively, as a lack of will to fight. Yet medieval battle experience might explain the event differently. The melee, the clash of dismounted men-at-arms, bore all the characteristics